Welcome to Powerless Penguins United Big Book Study. This week I'm pleased to reintroduce Megs D, who's come along to kindly continue the Big Book Study. Over to you, Megs.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, those, for your service. Everybody in the background, thank you for always being here on a Saturday morning and every day at this meeting. A wonderful tribe of people constantly carrying the message, so thank you always for being here. My name is Mags, alcoholic. You all know that drugs are part of my story. So yeah, I will do a little recap because last week I kind of wrapped up really fast in the end, and I knew that there was some information probably, well, not that I knew, but there's some information people are probably thinking, what, is that it? Just ask for the corrective measures and that's it? Well, yeah, what is it? At the end of our first meditation, which is when we retire at night, our nightly review, that paragraph on page 86, when we retire at night, the way that we break it down, it's, the understanding of it's the direct correlation, if you like, to what we should have been doing through the day in our step 10. This is where we have the data, the stimuli from our step 10 as we go through the day. We're bringing it to our nighttime inventory to ensure that spiritual practice of step 10 through the day has been undertaken in the way that it should be. And that's what makes our nightly routine, our nightly review easier to get into that discipline. Because if we've been practicing step 10 all through the day, we've got that information for our nightly review. So it doesn't become a real cumbersome thing to do, scratching around for information, or like, I didn't think, I don't really know about that, and kind of think I was selfish, but I don't really, well, I'm just going to forget about it. There's no point. We can get into that routine, which is not really a routine. It's just nothing really. And I cannot emphasize enough, and I've only learned this through bitter experience, that this discipline, because it does require discipline for the rest of our lives. Like it says in step 10, this continues for our lifetime. This is not an overnight matter. So if you are experiencing where you still require this instant gratification, then that's not what's going to be the result necessarily of step 10 and 11 as you practice this. In the beginning anyway, it might not feel instantaneous that you're receiving the information or receiving the direction, but it becomes it becomes this way of living. It becomes this working part of the mind where it begins to feel instantaneous, but when you first set out on this journey, this is perhaps feeling for you, because it certainly did for me, and for the people that I sponsor, it feels counterintuitive. It doesn't feel that this is a normal way of being. This feels in the beginning restrictive. But in actual fact, that's our thinking. We think we're being restricted, when in actual fact, all we're being provided with is a discipline, which is very, very different from a restriction. Because let's face it, up to this point in our program, we've done what we wanted, when we wanted, with who we've wanted, how we have wanted. And now we're being given a set of spiritual principles that in our mind in the beginning fly in the face of everything that we have demonstrated in our lives up to this point. So it's going to feel odd. And you're going to fight against it, because it's not the way that you wanted to do it. Well, I'm pausing because I want to say something really direct, and yeah, just get over yourselves, basically. Because if you think that you can genuinely get away with the daily reprieve, doing it in a way that you want to interpret how it's been done, then quite frankly, good luck with that. And I genuinely make no apologies for that. I really don't, because the reality of it is the clear-cut directions, the masterly detail, and I make no apologies for those who think I'm a broken down record. Because that's what we have in this program of recovery, in this program of action, is a set of simple rules that enables me to glide through the day. I can go through the day thinking that everything's okay, acting as if everything is okay, because it is. Because with this life, I've come to know, I've come to believe that this power that is greater than me only ever has my best interests. Only ever. I make it more simple when I speak to people and talk about the fact that the universe, the spirit of the universe, as it's called in Bill's story, is always conspiring in my favour. Always. I've come to believe that, and I've come to know that is true. So when I'm in my nighttime review and I'm reviewing all of the data and the stimuli that I've collected through the day in my step 10, I'm bringing it to my nighttime review. I'm answering all of those questions. I'm asking God the prayer for this forgiveness. I'm doing this for God, to give it to God. And I'm inquiring about these corrective measures that should be taken. So, as an example, last night I've asked for my corrective measures from the stimuli through the day. And I will sit in this contemplative meditation, because these meditations are contemplative. It means that we're thinking, we're bringing to mind, we're bringing to our mind. This is not a Zen Eastern meditation. As I said last week, if you want to do that stuff, great, do it. But in relation to the prescription for the progressive illness that we have, this is the directions that we must follow. Okay? So I'm bringing to mind, I'm contemplating this. I'm thinking about these corrective measures. But I don't sit for 4.5 hours waiting for them to come. I ask God for them. I sit for a period of quiet time. I don't know what your quiet time period is, but mine is relatively short. You know, when you get into the practice, it's, and there's no point in me putting a time scale on it, because then somebody will say, well, Max, you said 5 minutes, and then in the next talk you said 10 minutes, and then the previous week you said you only need 2 minutes. Well, whatever, you know. So I've asked for the corrective measures, and then I go to sleep. This morning, I have woken up and I have what I need to do. With this particular situation, I've got what I need to do. So I go into now what's going to become my own awakening. And I glide from there. I move from there. More often than not, through this discipline that I have, more often than not, my corrective measures come to me, are given to me in my sleep, and when I wake, I know the course of action that I need to take. But that has taken practice. Now, you're going to think that this is quite woo-woo in many respects. But what was good enough for me yesterday as I went through the day is never going to be good enough for today. And what is good enough for today is never going to be good enough for tomorrow. Because you see, this is all about, as we were taught before we went into that step 3 prayer, on page 60, this is about spiritual progress, not the spiritual perfection. If you think that we're going to be perfect, absolutely and utterly not. If you're striving for perfection, absolutely and utterly not. You're not going to attain it. The reality of it is you're not going to attain your own view and vision of what you believe perfection is of you in this life, in this third dimension of existence. Because the reality of it is the power that is greater than you sees you as perfect anyway. You're a perfect child of God. So if you're trying to attain perfectionism to the extent that you believe perfectionism is, what is that? Because what does it even mean? Because you're comparing yourself to everybody on this screen. Oh, I'm not as perfect as Angie. I'm not as perfect as Lisa. I'm not as perfect as Juliet. Do you know what I mean? There was a conversation that came on this morning that made me smile just before the meeting, where a beautiful woman, a beautiful, gorgeous woman said, oh my God, all of the women on this meeting have beautiful skin. I must get into that daily skincare routine. No, because you've got beautiful, gorgeous skin anyway. Who are you comparing yourself against? No, don't go out and spend a fortune on Korean beauty. Not necessary. You're beautiful, gorgeous in the eyes of your creator anyway. And then, of course, a gentleman piped up. Oh, so you're only talking about the women has beautiful skin. Do you see where our heads go to? Do you see where the perfectionism goes to? Do you see where the comparison goes to? Because in my mind, I'm running about going, I haven't done my skincare routine this morning. I've slapped makeup on from the night before because I haven't even taken the makeup off from the night before. Who cares? Because that comparison can take us down a route that is never going to make us successful in any respect. But this is where our egoic mind will take us to. Now, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. Far from it. I'm not getting into the whole ego thing and what that means and what that doesn't mean. And if I mention it, just please take it in the spirit in which I mean it. I'm talking about the false self. When I'm talking about my ego, I'm talking about the thing that's separated from the power as opposed to that that's connected to the power. That's the only way that I can put it. I recognize my ego, and I can recognize when my ego's in play, and this spiritual practice has enabled me to discern when my ego is at play, because I watch my ego very intently and she's a wee bitch. That's a term of endearment in Belfast, wee bitch. Please don't have the police come and get me for saying that. It really is a term of affection, you know. It really is. But she's a wee bitch, honest to God. And when she's at play, she can cause some damage, and her motives are really, really bad, really bad. And it's a great thing to watch her, to be able to say to her, now, Margaret, step back there, step back. No need to get that anger there, just take a wee breath. And then, will the real Mags D please stand up? The one that is connected, the one that is, yes, laws, hands in the air. Will the real Mags D please stand up? That's the one that steps forward, who has a different approach, because something else is at play and something else is working in and through me. And again, please don't think this is all woo-woo, and I am not a perfectionist at this whatsoever. What I have learned through this practice of this nighttime routine, this discipline of the 3 meditations that are set out within step 11, as we move into the second meditation, being on awakening, what I have learned about this is that I am given the opportunity every single second of the day to recalibrate my thinking. Every single second of the day, I am given the opportunity to connect to that limitless, changeless power that is within me. And that's what step 11 is all about, seeking through prayer and meditation, both, to improve my conscious, my awareness, the contact with God, asking for the power, only for his power, will and knowledge to carry anything out. So I have my corrective measures this morning from the thing that I had to bring into my inventory. That might not always be the case. So had I awoken this morning and not had that corrective measure, what do? Stop the practice because I haven't got the answer and I haven't got what I wanted. So we'll just leave it be for today. This isn't working. So this. God's not talking to me. Damn it. All of these people talking about God working in and through them, and they're talking nonsense. So I'm just going to do my own little thing instead. Whatever. No, that's not what you do. If the corrective measures haven't come, you step into today. You start your step 10 discipline all over again. You continue to watch, ask and turn. Watch for whatever is rising to the surface in relation to that matter that needs to have the corrective measure. Watch what's going on inside as it rises to the surface. There might be anger, there might be resentment, there might be jealousy, there might be fear, there might be selfishness, there might be dishonesty. Watching. In that moment when it arises, you ask God to remove it. Ask. That's the prayer. Ask for all of that stuff to be removed and resolutely turn your thoughts. Keep on turning your thoughts until the problem is resolved. Because as you're resolutely turning your thoughts, constant thought of others as an ex-problem drinker, my very life depends on it. As you're resolutely turning your thoughts, you're not thinking about the problem that needs the corrective measure. So you're in this, what I would call, it's not a cycle, because a cycle can sometimes feel like people that they're going around in circles with it all. This is not a cycle. This is your step 10, 11 and 12 in my mind is a continuum. Very different from a circular cycle of going round and round in circles. Oh, I can't move this. This keeps cropping up. Get over yourself. It keeps cropping up because you're overthinking it and you're not asking for it to be removed. And you're not resolutely turning your thoughts. Whereas if you're on this continuum of doing your step 10 every single day, practicing your step 10, practicing your step 11, practicing your step 12, you're on a constant continuum of progress, not perfection. When I get into the circular overthinking, why is a question a management question? I'm no longer in the management role. I am in the world to play the role that he assigns me. I'm no longer that actor trying to run the show. I'm no longer that person wrestling satisfaction, i.e. fighting to get the satisfaction of only I can manage this world well. And when I revert into that, why wrestling, I know that I'm not practicing the way that I should be practicing. And therefore I take a breath, I recalibrate, boom, I get into the practice again. I don't stop it. You may think this isn't working. You may think you need to know and understand why. You don't. God knows. With laser precision, God knows. So all you've got to do, all I've got to do, is to keep on taking the spiritual action. And people might think, well, what does that even mean, spiritual action? 10, 11 and 12, that's your spiritual action. That's your spiritual principles by which you're guided. It's nothing more than that. So I hope that makes sense from where we left it last week. In order for me to get the corrective measures, I'm on the continuum, and I'm telling you now, the answers do come. The answers will come. Just because they're not coming at the speed at which you want them, whatever. You're now living in the world of God speed, which is much more graceful, which is much less chaotic, which is much more informed, which is much more diligent and efficient. Because when you get the answer and implement it in a way that you're directed and guided to, you save so much time. So I hope it makes some sense. The reality of it is, with your step 10 practice and your step 11 practice, this is where the true understanding of those essential and indispensable requirements of willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness, those things for the rest of our lives, the willingness, the honesty, and the open-mindedness come into play, really and truly as a working part, an organic part of your way of living and your thinking. We're going to talk about thinking a lot in this On Awakening. The reality of it is that all of these things that are cropping up during the day, this willingness to have them released, because that's the blocker. The things that are cropping up during the day, the selfishness, the dishonesty, the resentment, the fear, the jealousy, the whatever it is that's cropping up, the willingness to release them. The honesty with yourself that you've got to release them because they're not serving you any purpose. And the open-mindedness to release them, to be assured of the fact that something else is going to replace them that is much better for your own personal value, and that to make you more useful to God. That's what this is all about. Your willingness to continue to release time after time after time to get closer to your innermost self and your true likeness in the image of the power that is greater than you. Now, when I say all of that stuff, set aside every single thing you think you know about what those terms may mean to you, all of those spiritual terms. You know, if you think that I'm talking in a way that might be very Christian or, I don't know, very, I don't know of this. Yeah, just set it aside. The image and likeness of the power that is even greater than you is in every organized religion in one way, shape or form. It doesn't matter how I'm describing them. You've got to ask what these spiritual terms mean to you. It's as simple as that. If anybody has any questions about any of that, then just drop me a message. I could talk about this stuff all day, evidently, because I keep going over time with all of this stuff. But it's important. I love this stuff. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we really get into it. And see this On Awakening section, I love it. Because this is my experience of this with many people. We go to meetings, meditation meetings, they're called. Step 11 meditation meetings. Very beautiful things. We read the pages from On Awakening right to the end of page 88. Often, I used to go to a meeting on a Saturday morning before I started this, where they read On Awakening every Saturday. Just as outlined in the book. Beautiful. And there were some people on there that could read it without even having to look at the book, On Awakening. Let us think about the 24 hours a day. And they would read it in a beautifully soft way as a meditation. And then we'd start talking about what this actually means. And everybody talked about everything but what was in On Awakening and what the spiritual practice was. Many people believe that by reading On Awakening to the end of chapter 6 into action is On Awakening. That all we've got to do is to read that every morning. And that's it. I'll just read this because it makes me feel great. Oh, isn't that beautiful? But what are we actually taking the action upon from the directions that are in there? It's not okay just to read it and go, happy days, that's me set for the day. Because see, if it was, I'd be delighted. That would be really simple. But my sponsor took me through this line by line and showed me what I actually had to do, the action that I actually had to take, which is pretty strenuous each morning. And I've come to enjoy it. But when I first started out on it, it was a real pain in the But I'm like, seriously, I have to get up at the same time every morning. I have to get into this discipline. I have to do this on awakening. I can't like get up, make my 3 lattes and, potter about a little bit, do a bit of the skincare routine, straighten my hair, have another latte, look at the watch and think, oh God, I'm going to be late for the bus now, so I better sit down and do this on awakening malarkey. Give it 5 minutes, stick the guddies on. Guddies means trainers, shoes, sorry. Stick the shoes on, run for the bus, sweating, jump on the bus, see somebody, give them a dirty look because they're holding me up and getting into the day. The usual. That used to be the unawakening. It's much more than that. But again, it becomes something that is a beautiful way to get into the day. When I do my unawakening, it is when I wake. Laws is laughing at me. I don't know which bit he's laughing at because I've talked to the biggest load of poop in that whole little bit there. I don't really care. Laugh away, Rose, laugh away. Just stick that on my little step 10 thing. So on awakening, it's when I wake. Like I used to roll my eyes with the people in the rooms before I started on this journey of having the spiritual awakening as the result of the steps. I used to roll my eyes when I would hear people in the room saying, even before I open my eyes, I'm praying. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I have become one of those individuals that even before I open my eyes in the morning, I am connecting. Genuinely, I'm connecting. And it doesn't matter what it is I'm using to connect. It's a prayer. Even before I put my feet on the floor, I'm already connecting on awakening. Okay. And this is what we do. Let us think about the 24 hours ahead. Contemplate. We're thinking. We're bringing to mind. Okay. This is not about clearing our mind. This is not about, having this, kind of no thoughts in our mind, because that's not ever going to be possible. I'm sure the people up on the mountains in Tibet that I keep talking about, in the caves and stuff that do all of this and don't interact with anybody in the world, I'm sure they're still thinking about, oh, it's dark in here, or I'm sure they're still thinking about the little trickles of water that they can hear. They're always thinking about something. And I look forward to meeting someone in life that doesn't have any thoughts. But we're thinking about the 24 hours ahead. Even that mindfulness practice that people do, in addition to what is set out here, mindfulness. We're not emptying it. We're watching those thoughts. We're watching those little clouds of thoughts that come in. And, oh, isn't that interesting? There's a very famous person, Scandinavian person, Tradition 10 would not have me mention his name and all of that, but, he talks about those little thoughts as clouds and they come into our mind, and then that's interesting. That's another little thought. Let it pass by like a cloud. That's what this contemplative stuff that I do in the morning is all about. Oh, that's interesting. I'm thinking about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. But before we begin, before anything, what are we doing? We're praying. We ask God. That's the prayer. We ask God to direct our thinking. Especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. So anybody that's been through a divorce, anybody that's going through a divorce, anybody that's been affected by their parents' divorce or a relative's divorce or whatever, it's not a very pretty thing. There's a lot of argy-bargy. There could be heated discussions. There could be fraught legal wranglings. There could be all sorts of disputes and wranglings and wrestling with things. The same applies with us in being divorced from the self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives that have been the rule to our life up to this point. And it's all sorts, 100 forms of self, 100 forms of fear, as is set out when we move into step 3 on page 62. Know that we're driven by 100 forms of fear and self-centeredness, selfishness. There's 22 versions of it set out in the actor running the show. To be divorced from these things that have been our way of being up to this point is not an easy thing. It's not a pretty thing. Divorced means to be separated from. So what you're asking God for in your prayer is to be separated from, to be split from these things, to be disconnected from these things. What you're doing here is asking God to break the connection between you and these motives, to separate you from them. During the day in your step 10, you're asking God to remove these things. Before you go into the day, you're asking God to separate you from these things. And as you're going through the day, you're asking Him in step 10 to remove them. So there's this constant, this continuum of working with this power in a spiritual way of being, you know. And this is challenging. You've been together with these things for so long. And think about the word motive also. This is important. Motives is my underlying reason. The underlying reason why I'm acting in the way that I'm acting, or the underlying reason for the cause for these things taking place. My motives are the reason why I act in a certain way. Okay? When we're talking about motives here, I'm being separated from, I'm being disconnected from, I'm asking God to break away these things that ultimately the underlying motive for them are for my own self gain, for my own self motivation, for my own self. They're basically my ulterior motive. I'm using these things as an ulterior motive to get something that I want in the way that I want it. Let's get willing to be honest and open-minded about the fact that sometimes my thinking in the mornings before this practice was all about what I could get from the day and what I could do to manipulate you to get what I needed to make my day go better. Where in actual fact, through this practice of unawakening, this flips completely. That no matter what happens through the day, no matter what, I'm always safe and protected. Because the spiritual action that I take in having this bliss discipline every single day will trump every single motive that I have. Motives are not good. If you're going into the work day or into your family day or into any activity through the day with a motive of thinking about this is what I need to get to make things better, get rid of it. Because that's the false self. That's the not the innermost self. That beautiful resource that is inside you. If you have an ulterior motive, we have got a very clever way where the ego can mask, disguise, and show up as something else, thinking that it's doing a good turn when in actual fact it's not. So this is where you have to get really willing and honest and open-minded to the fact of, do you know, ordinarily, I would do it this way. And it seems counterintuitive to do it another way because you don't know how yet. But the more you practice this, the more it becomes a working part of the mind. Because here's the thing. Under these conditions, when we're asking to be divorced from all of these things, all of these motives, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance. Employ. We can go to work. We can go to work for our new employer. as is outlined on page 63 with the third step promises, we can go to work with our mental faculties, with assurance. For after all, God has given us brains to use. We have to use them. But they're going to be used in a different way. How? Because our thought life, look at that. This is all about our thinking. This is no longer about our drinking and our using. This is all about our thinking. Our thought life will be placed on a higher plane. The fourth dimension of existence, not the third dimension of existence on this planet, on this, piece of ground. The fourth dimension of existence, where we're to know happiness, peace and usefulness in a way that becomes more wonderful as time progresses. We talk about that thought life as well on page 55. We're introduced to all of this stuff way in advance of step 11. Page 55, we're in step 2. And it talks about the fact that the people that wrote this book were seeing another kind of flight, a spiritual liberation, a spiritual freedom from this world, the third dimension of existence, people who rose above their problems. Their thought life was on a higher plane. They said God made these things possible, and we only smiled. We had seen the spiritual release, but like to tell ourselves it wasn't true. We've gone through this process. We've had faith in this process all the way through to this point. Are we willing to release these things? Are we willing to be separated from these things? That's the thing. So our thought life is placed on a much higher plane when our thinking, again, I emphasize this is all about our thinking, is cleared of the wrong motives, the self-driven motives. Anything that is prefixed with the word self is more often than not a motive where you're trying to get what you want out of the situation. That's no longer what our life is about. The spiritual discipline and the spiritual action will always trump any motive that we have. So I'm sitting with this morning, and by the way, this is a discipline that, for example, this week I've had to start work earlier, say 6 a.m. So my discipline gets pulled forward by 2 hours, okay? Because I need to keep the routine. I need to keep the discipline. Just because I have to start work earlier at 6 o'clock doesn't mean that I ignore the discipline. No, the day gets pulled forward. The discipline still has to take place. It's a daily reprieve. 10, 11 and 12 is our daily reprieve. So there can't be a morning where I don't do this practice. There can't be an evening where I don't do the practice. Otherwise, I'm not going to be making this progress. And this does take effort. It does take work. But once you get into the effort of it, it becomes simple. It becomes a way of living where it just becomes natural. Your intuition kicks in and it's like, okay, I'm awake. I need to do this. So in thinking about our day, here we are again, we're thinking about our day. Oh, I'm going to give you an example of the selfishness, dishonesty and all of that I used to have. Previously in a job, I would be like, oh my God, going into the day, it's chocker block my calendar. There's not a minute from 9 till 5. Oh my God, the day is so busy, so busy, so busy. So I'd be running into the day, fraught already, getting the bus, straight into work, open the laptop, not a break in the day, not a break in the day. Anybody asked me how I was in the morning? Good morning, all ready for a good day? Oh my God, horrific. I've got just back-to-back meetings all day. So I'm impacting everybody else around me. Oh my, has anybody seen Max this morning? Because she's on one, because she's got a busy day. So it replicates, everybody's saying, everybody watch out, Really? See, when I started this practice and got willing and honest and open-minded enough, see, between 9 and 5, I did very little. My calendar was blocked out, red the whole way, meeting after meeting after meeting. More often than not, you'd see me at the coffee machine, standing talking for 20 minutes. And even if there was a meeting in from 9 till 10, it was often wrapped up by 20 to 10. Because I had to nip out of the office to go and bring something to the post office that I'd forgot to do at the weekend on my day off. So I was then putting myself under more pressure because I was nipping out to go to the post office for 20 minutes with another meeting starting at 10 o'clock. And then I'd arrive late at 10:15 for that meeting because I thought, do you know what? I may as well whilst I'm out, drop in here and get some food tonight so I don't have to stop on the way home from work. And then I'll stop for a coffee and bring it into the office. And sure, it'll be okay if I get the team that I'm with a couple of coffees too. They'll not complain about me being late. Motives beyond all motives is selfishness driven to that extent. My employer was probably getting no work out of me in one given day. But in my mind, at that point, I was the most productive person in the organisation and I should be getting praise upon all praise about what I was delivering. I was probably delivering diddly squat. But until I sat down and looked at this from the perspective from which this is showing me now, it was unbelievable that I couldn't see that. I was so asleep to my patterns. I was no more awake than the man in the moon. But when I became awake to this stuff, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of the steps, it was so clear that my motives, my behaviours were all about me and what I could get from this world. And through this daily reprieve practice every single day, I can genuinely put my hand on my heart and say that I am more productive than I have ever been in my entire life, to the extent where I can't believe what I fit into one day. Because the reality of it is, it's not me that's fitting it in. God has given me the energy. What I've come to understand is that time actually doesn't matter anymore. There's still 24 hours in any given day, but what I'm able to deliver within that 24-hour window, because I'm being more useful to God and playing the role that He assigns me, it's phenomenal what I can achieve in one day. Phenomenal. And that's not me being egoic like I need a gold star on my reward chart on the front of the fridge. No, I'm just telling you, it's freaking phenomenal. How have I ended up with, looking after a special needs individual that needs me and running a charity and doing my employed work and doing all of this sponsorship and. Like, how's that happen? Because God is doing for me what I cannot possibly do for myself. All as a result of following a few simple rules. It's a miracle. And all a miracle is a change in my perception. All a miracle is a change in my thinking. This psychic change, this personality change that comes as a result of having this awakening as the result of the steps changes life entirely. Where I feel truly and utterly, like it says in those third step promises, I have been reborn. My life has been totally and utterly recreated to the extent that I don't even recognize it sometimes. It's phenomenal. This is the gift that is ahead of you. I say this to people all the time. Let go. And I know it's easy. Not easy, sorry. It's easy for me to say, let go. But if you're willing and honest and open-minded enough, get ready and move towards the life that is already waiting for you. God's got it with laser precision. What are you wrangling with, trying to work out the problem that you've got today? Because I need to get this sorted out because they need me to be perfect and I need to show them that I am. Shut up. Just go with the flow, people. It doesn't have to be this difficult. Anyway, I hope I have time here. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. Yeah. Do I want a latte or do I want a matcha tea? That's indecision for me. I ask God about everything. Everything. Do I wear those red trainers or do I wear those pink ones? Honest to God, I may face indecision. And I ask, do I have a direct conversation with my boss or do I not? Very clear questions. Doesn't matter what the indecision is. the solution is still the same. So if we do, in thinking about our day as we're sitting doing this meditation, we may face indecision. What do? We may not be able to determine which course to take. So I'm not going to force a decision because I just need it done quickly. That's the whole point of the meditation. If I'm not able to determine the course, which road to take, then here's what I do. I ask God. I pray. I ask God for inspiration. Inspiration. Inspiro. Inner spirit. I go deep down within me, and within the meditation, I ask the inner resource. I'm resourcing the power that is within me and asking them for the inspiration. As well as the inspiro, inner spirit, inspiration, I'm also asking for an intuitive thought, an intuition, my inner teacher, my inner guide, my inner director for a thought or a decision. Give me another thought or the decision. We know that when we made the decision at step 3, a decision is to cut away. A surgeon makes an incision. Well, we're asking for a decision. So, God, cut away all of the stuff that is not going to serve me well and provide me with the answer that will make me useful to you and my fellows. So I'm asking God to cut away the 5,000 things that I'm overthinking about and to cut that all away and give me the decision. And let me tell you, honest to goodness, through this practice every single day, I get told what to do. I get told. Don't go. Stay quiet. My sponsor laughs at me sometimes because often my direction, the thought or the decision comes in 3 words. Like even before I started out in this, go to rehab. 3 words. Couldn't have been clearer. And when I hear those 3-word directions, I know that to be God. At work yesterday, don't say anything. Because in the moment, I do what is suggested. So I'm asking for the inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. When we do that, we can then relax and take it easy. Only when we've done all of this can we relax and take it easy. Okay, so even before I set out in the day, I'm taking this meditation. I'm taking all of this information in, right? But I hear people in the rooms, and sometimes sponsees will phone me and say 2 things that really set me off sometimes. I've just handed that over to God and now I'm going to relax and take it easy. Dead on. How's that going to go for you? In order to relax and take it easy, we have to take the spiritual action first. We have to do these things first. We can't just sit back and take it easy and expect God just to go, here you go. No, this requires action on our part. So then I can relax and take it easy. I don't struggle. I can then go about my business and glide through the rest of the day. That's the whole point. Because here's what happens. We're often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. It might be counterintuitive to you when you first start out, but after you practice this for a while, the answers become much clearer. They come more quickly. And even if they don't come quickly, because it's not the speed at which we get this information, God will provide it when we need it most, when we can be most useful to ourselves and our fellows. So as long as I'm doing the morning routine, asking, praying, meditating on these things, as I step out into the day, I then kicked into the continuum of step 10, asking, watching, turning, bring it to my nighttime review, get the corrective measures, wake up in the morning and start the process again. It's a continuum. If you're not getting the answers in the moment and you're stopping this, well, good luck with that. Because it takes practice. Because here's what happens. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of your mind, where it becomes this way of doing, it becomes this way of being, where you don't then need to tap in on particular things. You move to something else, the spiritual progress, not the perfection, every single day. You know, yesterday, don't say anything, okay? Today, I know, don't say anything to that same person because I haven't got the answers yet as to what the corrective measure should be. Don't say anything. I relax and take it easy. Move on with the rest of my day. There's no direction to take with this person. End of story. That's how beautiful, priceless, calming, beautiful this whole process is. All I've got to do is to continue to have the practice and have faith in this process. It's that simple. But here's the thing, they give us this little caveat, being still inexperienced, because we've only just entered the world of the spirit. We're not gurus of this. Being still inexperienced and having just made this conscious contact with God, it's not probable that we're going to be inspired at all times. Absolutely not. It's highly likely that we're not going to be, especially if we stop doing it and then complain about the fact that it's not working. Do you know what I mean? Jelly bean. What's that all about? I'm just going to stop because I'm not getting what he's not telling me what I want to hear. And when he does talk to me, I don't like what he's saying to me, so I'm just giving up on it. That's what happens. We got to have a laugh at ourselves, guys. I can see people laughing and throwing themselves back on the screen because it's true. That's what we do. We might pay for this presumption and all sorts of absurd ideas and actions. Yeah, I've made loads of mistakes thinking that the power is telling me to do that, and I've done it in a way that I thought I should do it. I've interpreted it in the way that I've done it. And I've made mistakes, and all sorts of absurd ideas have come into my mind, and I've gone, happy days, God's told me to do that, so I'm going to do it. I end up with a little bit of egg in my face, but it's okay. Because the reality of it is, if we do that mistake, we have the opportunity to do the take again, like on a movie set. We retake, we recalibrate. We don't stop doing this because we've made a mistake. We take it to our inventory. We review it that night. We ask for the corrective measures and then we glide into the next day. Or we recalibrate in the moment and we glide into the next moment. There is a God. May you find him now. Now. Every single second of the day, I can recalibrate with my thinking. It's as simple as that. Here's the thing though, nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration, coming from our inner spirit, coming from our intuition, coming from the higher thought life. And as a result of that, we come to rely upon it. Every single moment of the day, I come to rely upon this intuition, this inner spirit, this sixth sense that has been given to me. I thought I was coming into these rooms for my drinking. I thought I was coming into these rooms for my drugging. I never thought in a gazillion years that I would be guided by you guys and what the power of this program of recovery and actually brings, to the extent where my life is unrecognizable. My thinking is unrecognizable. My ability to have relationships with people, no matter who you are, is unrecognizable. There is not one person, not one situation, not one circumstance on this planet, in this world, that can affect me in a way that is negative. The spirit of the universe is always, 100%, 1,000,000% conspiring in my favour. Nothing can ever go wrong in my life. Ever. You might think that's woo-woo. You might think I'm a bit mad. I don't really care, because my life is so abundant with all of this stuff because I do this really simple practice. Am I getting the results when I want them? Probably not. But is it worth it when they do? 100%. Great measure, like it says on page 13. So that's the second meditation. We'll move on to the third meditation next week.